Journalists impact society. Everything has a ripple effect that spreads due to the efforts of another, but change can only occur through action. Journalists have the power to impact society as they have been creating change for decades, like Nellie Bly, who faked insanity to study a mental institution from within and expose their living conditions, Lewis Hine, who used his camera to change childhood labor laws in the United States, or even Rick Leventhal, who put his life in danger being the first reporter on the scene of 9/11 disaster. One journalist that stands out upon the rest is investigative reporter Nellie Bly, who accomplished a lot in her career, impacting the world with her investigative and dedicated work, along with setting an example on working women during her time in the late 1800s. Nellie Bly. Could I pass a week in the insane ward at Blackwell's Island? I said I could, and I would, and I did, said Nellie Bly, investigative reporter, in her book 10 Days in the Madhouse, known for her famous work exposing the living conditions in the mental institution in 1887. Bly was a young reporter who helped shape the path for future women journalists. Her first assignment at the age of 23, she agreed to uncover the abuse at an insane asylum by pretending to be insane and experiencing the treatment firsthand. According to Bibliography.com editors, in Nellie Bly's biography, after she was released, the story broke out, resulting in the city of New York putting more money towards the care of the insane, giving the patients better treatment and aid. In her later years, she was known for covering World War I in Europe, working from the front lines and being the first female reporter to do so. Bly impacted our society, giving the mentally ill medical treatment that they need, sharing stories of those on the front lines of World War I, and showing the world that women deserve the same working opportunities as men. Bly is a perfect example of a hard-working and determined journalist that impacted society in a number of ways, affecting the future through her own words. With Bly's heavy influence with her investigative work, Lewis Hine had influential power with the skills of him and his camera. The American photographer Lewis Hine used his camera to bring attention to the child labor and the cruelties of it to completely alter child labor laws in the United States. In 1908, Hine became the photographer for the National Child Labor Committee. Hine's photos appeared on posters and in newspapers and on bulletins that would abolish most forms of commercial child labor and mandate a public school education for all working-class children. Despite existing education laws in most states, such policies were not actually put in place until the 1930s. In 1913, he documented child laborers working alongside cotton mill workers. Hine's work for the NCLC was quite dangerous. He was threatened with violence or death by factory police and foremen because at the time child labor was meant to be hidden from the public. Photography was not only prohibited but also posed a serious threat to the industry. To gain entry to the mills, mines, and factories, Hines was forced to pose as an inspector, postcard vendor, Bible salesman, or even in industrial photography making a record of factory machinery. His images have served as a model and an inspiration for documentary photographers. He gave children the opportunity to create a life for themselves, driven by their own desires. Rick Leventhal has a huge impact on the journalism society as well. He has been a news reporter since 1997. He was one of the journalists that didn't mind taking a risk to get a great story. According to Bibliography.com, famous bibliographies and TV shows, he has covered several stories in his lifetime, including the Paris attack in 2015. Leventhal also played a role in the networking coverage of the 9/11 attacks. According to Fox News, on September 11, 2001, he was one of the first reporters on the scene at the World Trade Center. He was the first to go live before the Twin Towers fell to the ground. While at FNC, Leventhal also covered major breaking news stories including the Boston Marathon bombing, the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, the death and funeral of Pope John Paul II, as well as the killing of Osama bin Laden. He has always provided living coverage on natural disasters. He inspires future journalists to not be afraid to take chances, as he has risked his life covering stories around the country. These three specifically stood out and created change through their determination and enjoyed doing something they were passionate about, which made them stand out that much more, inspiring a lot of future journalists. All three of these journalists were from a different time, which just goes to show, no matter what time you are in, or what's going on during your time on this earth as a journalist. You take what you are given, and you work hard at what you love, and that will show off in your work as it did in them.